Hey everybody, this is the editor and director of Pioneer Media, Draven Gibson, here to let you all know that this is the season finale of the Fall Sports Update for 2023. We want to thank you so much for tuning in for this first season, and we will see you back for the Winter Sports Update starting next week. So again, thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the show.
Welcome to another edition of the Coaches Show this week, and our guest in the first segment here today on this November 13th is head football coach Mike Keller. Thanks for joining us today, Coach.
I appreciate you having me.
So another winning season in the books. 6-4, we're able to knock off Wesleyan on Saturday, 41-3. Real efficient win, up 20-0 at halftime, and then was able to carry that momentum through. Just some takeaways on that win Saturday.
Yeah, I think efficient is probably a pretty good word for it. We came out in the first drive of the game. We had a 19-play drive, and really, 4 yards here, 5 yards there, an out route there, a penalty against us here, and just methodically went down the field and thought long and hard about going forward on 4th and 1 there. But I thought with a big drive like that in a game in which, your team and their team and everyone there expects you to win, I thought coming away with the points was important just to kind of keep some semblance of momentum. And really dominated the game in the first half from a time of possession and everything we were doing in a lot of ways. But, felt like we left some stuff out there, up 20-0. It was a weird week of prep coming off the Frostburg game. We weren't allowed to practice Tuesday because of Election Day. And getting our kids' minds right was not easy. I went up in the half up 20-0 and was upset with the way we were playing and not really the score as much as just our quality of play and really as a staff we challenged each other a little bit in the meeting there at halftime and then really challenged the team and they responded in a positive way and came out and took care of business in the second half.
Well, whatever you said, just the whole vibe, it seemed like they really came out and they were having a lot of fun in that second half.
Yeah, I think so. It was like I said, those games have always been harder to coach than the big games. And, having coached in the national playoffs several times and all that, the rivalry games, conference championship games, those games were always easy to coach because your team was focused all week in practice. They were focused during the game. Keeping a team focused, when it's the last game of the year, I think it's a little easier if you're playing Wesleyan in week 4. When they know this is it, this is the last game of the year, and this is a team that we think we should win this game. I think that's the hardest coaching there is.
Yeah, and you were able to to shuffle in a lot of people, and I felt like, and for the weather ended up being a beautiful fall Saturday, and to put the ribbon on the season, it was really a nice crowd out there.
It was obviously we ended last season with Wesleyan and it was pouring to rain and the weather was, it was cold and wet a year ago and the crowd was sparse, just as the weather was. This week was great. I mean, when I got here early in the morning, there was already people out tailgating. It was a great atmosphere. Last game of the year, I could not be happier with, or we couldn't have got any luckier with weather the whole year, other than really the Wheeling game, for about a half. The weather was great for us all year, including practices. And the people of Glenville have been, they're so supportive and so good. And game day is such a good atmosphere. But the only problem with Glenville is there's more. The atmosphere is in the parking lot, not in the stadium. Everyone's out there having a good time, and it's a great venue to watch a ball game.
Yeah, and then of course Wesleyan, Coach Martin and Coach Spearman, good friends and good guys, and it's always, kind of a end of the year, senior day, all these young men that have put in so much for the program, what that is like being able to say goodbye to them.
Oh, yeah. It's, truthfully, this is the first class that I recruited, the entire time. I think we had Seth, Dane were here before I got here. A couple guys I didn't recruit in that class. But I did have them their entire 4 years. It was also a weird senior day because there's about 5 or 6 guys who walked because they're going to graduate, but they could come back and go to grad school and got another year because of COVID. This next year at this time, I believe, will be the first time where we're not really still in this COVID mess, where it comes out.
A couple of the parents mentioned that, said, we're probably coming back, but of course they went through the ceremony just in case.
Well, I advised them on Monday. I said, we don't have to make these decisions right now. If you're unsure, or even if you think there's a chance that you wouldn't come back, why don't you go ahead and walk, and then you could always walk again next year, and we've had that over the years with guys getting medical red shirts at other schools, and I think that's the best way to handle it. So, we have our exit meetings this week. I'll be talking to each of those kids about their futures, and hopefully some of them, and Dr. Manchin and you and the administrators, you guys have done a great job because, 2 years ago, I didn't have these options. These kids had to move on if they wanted to keep playing and go to grad school somewhere else. Now that we've got some grad school programs available, then it makes sense for the kids to stay here and continue their education.
And just adding in, of course, the GA program, we're able to do that and keep those graduate assistants internal.
Oh, it's amazing, and I always laugh. I've talked to Doc Manchin about this and you. It's like everyone wants me to get grad students, and we don't have grad school. So now
makes it tough.
It makes it hard. So it makes it. It's been huge to us in the academic model. There's several things happening in Glenville that make the future exciting.
Absolutely. And just to close here, just another winning season, having that, in the hip pocket, and I know, you'd hope for another win or two for sure, as everybody would.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, with some wins over Notre Dame, that big one at Frostburg, just some good in your hip pocket.
Well, I mean, I think we could, we can point to a lot of things, in my tenure here. My personal feeling is the COVID thing was just a mess from start to finish. And,
yes.
And I think that hurt us for the following year. But if you take 2019, we were 7-4, and we beat the first or second place team in the league. We're 5-0 at home. Then 2022, we had a good year and 5-0 at home. This past year we were 4-1 at home. So that's something that I brought to the team is, we need to make sure that when people come down, the Route 5 there, that when they get down here, that they leave here, with a loss. So having, I think 3 years, that's a pretty good trend of we play well here, and it's something that we could build upon in the future. And if we could just, we got to take this off season and find where those missing points are to go from, the 4 loss seasons to the no loss seasons. And I think that's, I know it's my goal and my hope, and I know it's the teams, and I would like to think that it's everyone's,
absolutely,
goal.
Absolutely.
And it's the direction we need to head. It's tough sledding. You and I've talked about that. It's easier to say than to do, but as long as we're working toward that, and that's the goal, and we can have, with Coach Knight passing this past week, I was listening to it, how long are you going to stay coach, and all these past interviews, and he's like, as long as we can be relevant and good, and we feel like we're improving, then I'm going to be coaching. And I was, one of the interviews I saw, he was 56, I'm 52, and I'm thinking, as long as we're striving to be great, then this is something that we need that's worthwhile.
Absolutely. Be a dream. Love to see it here for you.
Amen.
And this program.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Thank you for joining us here today on the Coaches Show, and we'll be back.
Thank
you. Okay, welcome back to the Coaches Show. Here with our next segment, we are with head volleyball coach Cara Perkins. Coach.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us here today, and a nice little wrap on the season. Friday night, senior night, and coming up with a 4-set victory over Concord here in the Waco Center. You give us some takeaways from that match.
Definitely coming out strong and really setting the tone from the beginning. We had one goal. I told the girls, I said, this is our last game. So I said, at the end of the day, this is going to be the game that you guys remember the most. So just going out, enjoying it, really enjoying the last time that you guys will be playing together, and coming out with a victory.
Yeah, and it was impressive. A good atmosphere. We had the faculty row with the professors, had a lot of the students out, and just the vibe the whole night was really positive. It seemed like the young ladies fed off that out there on the court.
Oh, yes, definitely. And we talk about how we've been a very energy-based team, so that's one thing that we've struggled with some games is sometimes we we struggled to create the energy for ourselves, but being able to feed off the fans and off of each other really helped.
Now, the first season as a head coach in the books, you got 12 wins on the board, and now you're going to be able to get out in the off season and hit the recruiting trail, and just some of your own personal takeaways now that the first season's in the books of your first year as a head coach and running your own program.
Definitely a little more than I expected. Definitely had our challenges this season, but being able to overcome those challenges and still get to where we were was honestly the biggest thing. But definitely lots of recruiting to do, and very excited for spring season to start, to really build those players into even more of what they can be.
And, it was senior night, and, it was your first year as a head coach. So, you with that group of young ladies, your paths only crossed for a year. But just, what it means to, when you went through it as a player and as an assistant coach, when you're saying goodbye to folks, who put in the time for a program.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I told the girls too, at the end of the game, I said, I couldn't imagine being with a different group of girls. Definitely losing a lot of character and great personalities on the court. But honestly, just great human beings, and they'll be greatly missed.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into the off season, just looking ahead here, what are you looking for, in terms of, I know we can't talk about specific recruits, but in terms of, what you wanted to add and, kind of your recruitment plan?
Definitely, because we're losing a big chunk of our starters. So being able to get those people that'll be great starter impacts, like right from the start, just because of the roles and stuff that we are losing. But we do have a lot of returners coming back too that have greatly impacted our team. So very excited for the new pieces and stuff that we'll be adding to those.
And before we close, I want to talk about, we did the press release there on the, that I think Jagger was putting up today on the mental health room and the ribbon cutting Friday and, the role you play in that area. How excited are you for you to being able to be this additional resource for these student athletes?
I'm very excited with being a student athlete not too long ago. I know the different pressures and stuff that go on between the athletics and the academics and on top of the other stuff that may be going on in life. So being able to just have somebody that you can talk to and somebody that could even you relate with, I think is the biggest thing. So very excited for that and excited to see where it goes.
Well, Coach, I just want to really appreciate you coming by and joining us this morning, and what you've done with this program this year. We're very excited for the future of where this is going to go with Pioneer Volleyball. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to the next segment of the Coaches Show, and our guest this segment is head women's basketball coach Emily Stoller. Coach, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Coach, coming off your first weekend as head coach of this program, and to come in here, obviously the objective, you come back with 2 wins. Very exciting, two very different wins, and but we're going to dissect them. The first one over Gannon, host school of the tournament. It was their tournament. They had just knocked off number 5 Tampa, and to go in there and get that win on their floor. Just talk about your takeaways from that game.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things that stand out that we can work on from the victory. However, our girls went in there, they were excited to play, tons of energy. They really gathered around one another and, they put the product on the floor and we came out with a win. I'm proud of them. They played hard, played Pioneer basketball.
And the way, on their home court, they made that run at you there at the end and you were able to make plays, get a couple key defensive stops. And of course, the team had struggled from the free throw line, but they did hit a couple key ones there in those last couple minutes.
Right, yeah. That was one big takeaway that we had, especially moving on to the Clarion game the next day. Told them we're not going to win very many games missing 19 free throws. So we fixed that there, made a minor adjustment from the free throw line for Clarion, ended up taking it from 40% and went up to 67% the next game.
So, and I know, talking to you Friday, you did a great job of compartmentalizing the victory and really getting focused back on the next game. Now, the next game wasn't the same defensive energy. I know you were upset with the pressure day 2, but the flip side is, they hit shots, rained a bunch of threes, shot the ball much better in that second game.
Right. Yeah, I was proud of them both days. Like you said there, I didn't really want to give up 74 points there to that team. I think we could have showed a better defensive effort in the game. One thing that I do take pride in from the weekend is that we played all people on the roster. So all my girls got playing time this weekend, and it was a really fun weekend, for everyone involved.
You mentioned Coach Abbey and Coach Hines about the work that they did on shuffling the personnel and so you could just coach just about the job they did and all those personnel groupings that you rolled with, because I know it seemed like it was a lot of give and take with what you were doing there, especially at first night with Gannon.
Right. So the takeaway from the first game, after I had time to really let it sit in and think about first win as a head coach. Not only was it a first win for me, it was the first win for them and for us as a coaching staff together. And, I really do give all the credit in the world to the both of them. High intensity, high pressure game, high basketball IQ situation there at the end. And it's our first time working together as a team, as a coaching staff. And, they were able to maintain different parts of the game that I wasn't able to maintain at times. So, all credit and all props to my coaching staff. They did excellent this weekend.
And, no time to take a breath here. Again, another non-conference game on Wednesday, noon game down at Chowan, and then we get into league play against, the highly rated, state team there within the league with Coach Marshall. But first off, the trip to Chowan.
Yeah, so one game at a time. Like you said there, real quick turnaround. Get on a 7-hour bus ride, head down that way. Real tough opponent here coming out of this very hard weekend for us. Real athletic, high pace play. It'll definitely be a tough matchup for us. They play similar to us, so it's about who can execute more down the stretch.
And again, you're coming off that trip, and it's not a short trip. And then coming back here, and then the home opener, just like last year, it was a knockdown, drag-out game here. They had us down at the last media timeout, and we were able to pull it out. A team that plays a lot like us, obviously, Coach Marshall from that same, type of system, just looking ahead to the state game.
Real tough opponent. Like I said in the previous interview here, I think we've put together probably one of the hardest starts of the season in Pioneer basketball. Number 1 ranked state in the preseason poll. Real tough opponent. Play very similar to us. High pace, high style play. Real athletic. They have everyone returning from last year and added a few more. They're real talented. It'll be a tough home opener for us. If we can get everyone out that we can. Might be able to buy us a few points from the crowd with the energy that our home crowd brings in. We're very excited about the game.
And we've got, again, with beginning of the break, we won't have as many students as we normally have at that, but we're going to run in the same situation down at Charleston next week. They'll be over the break. But with that being said, what's going on between the court, 2 very big games right off the bat within the league.
Right. Start of the conference play here, right off the bat, we face number 1 and number 2. So real tough opponents. Hopefully we could come away with both. High hopes for that. But ultimate goal is I want to play Pioneer basketball. I want to play hard basketball heading into break.
Now, after the first weekend, again, I know you talked about this some last week about being in this role now, and we talked about it back at the beginning of the year as well, but now you got 2 wins on the board, that this was the first time the lights were on and you were the decision maker and not the suggestion maker. What was that like, now that the weekend's behind you and being able to reflect on that a little bit? Right,
yeah. Definitely different for me, a lot different. And, I think I stepped up to the plate pretty well. But, again, I'll accredit that to my coaching staff because without them, decisions down the stretch become extremely difficult, extremely difficult. But I think we managed it very well as a team, as a coaching staff.
And a couple times where we saw you get pretty mad there, I think it's pretty fair to say, plus what I've seen in your practices here, that, again, I know we're not naming names here, but for the situation where a kid's not going to guard, they're going to hear about it.
Oh, absolutely. I told him I had, before we left for the Gannon trip, I told him I had a nightmare, and I told him in my nightmare, I called a timeout right off the bat, and I was screaming at him, Bucks out, Bucks out. And it absolutely came true. So, yeah, I'm definitely not afraid to step up and say something when the time comes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the ladies, it was exciting to see how they came together, and, real excited for this week. I know you got to take it one at a time. But to the folks out there listening, home game with West Virginia State Saturday here at the Waco Center at 2 p.m. But with that being said, there's work to be done down in Carolina with Shawan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Coach.
Coach, thanks for coming by. Okay, welcome back to our next segment of today's Coaches Show. And our guest in this segment is head men's basketball coach Bob Bolen. Coach, thanks for joining us this morning.
Coach, thank you for having me.
Coach, coming off, the season opening tournament down at Charleston. Again, we played Gannon and Salem. Just some general takeaways from the weekend.
Well, we just have to get better on defense, get some stops. We just really had trouble getting stops and rebounding the ball. We scored it well, but we really had trouble in those two areas. And, we were without two key players. And Turbo and Jalen Johnson, and that didn't make things any easier, but hopefully we can get them back by Saturday, get this stuff corrected on the defensive end, and be a better ball club.
Yeah. And, being able to get them back, I know that'll go a long way. A couple key players, obviously, with what, they've, done offensively, but also, with what they bring just in terms of energy to the overall group.
Oh, they do, and they're the two captains, and to play your first and second game without your two captains. Well, Jalen played Friday and he got hurt, but made things a little more difficult than they should have been.
So I know it's been a while, for you as the head coach. What it feel like just being back on that bench and not over at the table with the headset on?
It just felt like I'd never left. I mean, it was the same feelings, the same energy, just disappointed in our defense, just really disappointed in that and rebounding. But and that's two things that the coach can't help very much on. Yeah. I mean, you can change your scheme a little bit and do that, but defense and rebounding is about 85% wanting to go do it.
Yeah.
And we'll work on that other 15% and find the guys that want to give that 85% and go get it.
I'll tell you, just from our previous conversation here with Coach Stoller, they got a non-conference game planted in this week before we get into conference play. Fortunately for you, we've got some time here to kind of hit the reset button and gather going into the league opener with West Virginia State here Saturday. Just, some thoughts going forward with that matchup with Coach Porter's squad.
Yeah, West Virginia State's extremely athletic, as they always are. They really crash the boards. They're playing 10 people, meaningful minutes. And they're coming off of a game where they got beat on a buzzer beater on Saturday. Got beat 68-67, shot at the buzzer. And I'm sure they'll come in here ready to play. They have some veterans on the team, and they have some new guys. So we'll be ready for Saturday.
Yeah, and of course, we got them down at their place last year, but they beat us pretty good up here in this same weekend last year. You got several players on this team that I'm sure has a memory of that. Just about, when you got the job and you're talking about this facility in the Waco Center, and we've had a scrimmage here, but now to be the head coach in this facility, I mean, what's it mean to be back here and to be opening league play as the head coach at Glenville State?
Oh, I'm very excited about conference play and just to play in this arena and I'm yet to see the environment, but I hope it's a great environment, but just a special place to play, and our kids will be ready.
As far as mentioning, you said you scored the ball. I know Dom Penn averaged 25 points a game for the weekend. Some individuals you may want to point to with some numbers they were able to put up this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Dominic Penn shot 63% from the floor, 58% threes. Was very efficient offensively, averaged 25 in the 2 games. James Franklin came off the bench to average 15 and a half. Shot 89% from the free throw line the 2 games. And A.J. Boyd really came in and played a good game Saturday. Yeah. I thought he was tremendous. Jay Scott scored the ball Saturday. Rygab was our one shiner on defense. I mean, he really got after it, played hard. But, that was some of the guys that had good weekends offensively.
Down that stretch in that Salem game, made some runs at them. I think there was one point there, it was a 7, and we had the ball.
Yeah.
Kind of had them on their heels. It feel like if we could have scored some back-to-back possessions there, that maybe we could have been able to make a run at them.
Yeah, we made a run there in the second half, and then the first half it was 43-40 with 3:59. We had got off to a terrible start, and we cut it to 43-40 with 3:59. There was a timeout there, and came out and missed a couple easy ones, and they got two threes in a matter of 20 seconds, and the lead shot back up there again.
And just kind of circling back to kind of dissect everything for the weekend, the fact that Gannon then beat Charleston, they're for real. That was a very good team. You were going against Friday night,
right? Gannon, they did that 10-man rotation, and all of them were physical and strong and could play. And I think Gannon has a really good team.
So I'll tell you what, we had talked about, of course, a lot of the students here are going to be going with the break. And, of course, Charleston's going to be facing the same thing when we go down to their place next week. But you'd mentioned about, wanting to see the same fan interaction here with the men as we've had with the women. And this will be the first game here. We really appreciate, you taking the initiative on that and where it's going.
Well, I'm, glad to do that, try to get out in the community and do as much as we can. And hopefully they'll come out and support us.
Absolutely. So that'll be Saturday here at 4, Game 2. Women play state at 2, the men at 4 here at the Waco Center. Coach, thank you for joining us here this afternoon.
Coach, thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to this segment of the Coaches Show, and our guest this segment is head wrestling coach Dylan Cottrell. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Coach. Happy to be back.
Hey, a big weekend up in Cleveland. I know you have a late night getting back, so thank you for joining us here this morning here in the Waco Center. But another productive weekend on the mat for Pioneer Wrestling. Give us your takeaways on the weekend.
Yeah, very excited about this weekend. Again, thought that kind of our progression here through November is really focusing on getting better, not too much on results, we ups and downs, right? Same as last week. We had some guys that, drop some matches that they shouldn't. We had some guys win some that, were big wins for them right now in the season. So overall, very happy with the weekend. Came away with 3 champs, had 2 last year. So progression, we like to see that. Gavin Kiocho had a good semifinals match. Score-wise, it was close. I don't think he wrestled how we want him to wrestle. So, we kind of got with him. He corrected that in his finals match, went out there, got a tech fall, got kind of back on his offense. Gavin Shamblin wrestled a really good tournament, beat a guy who was ranked above him in the regional rankings. It was by default on a pretty nasty cut, but we were also winning at the time. Really would have liked to have seen that match play out. It was 8-6 at the end of the first period. It was, for a heavyweight, very exciting match. And then, Guy wrestled well. He's just a workhorse. He puts his head down and works hard every day. And, his wrestling really, follows suit with that. He's on his way down to 157. So, he weighed in lighter. Me as a coach or just a person in general, I care about him. I, thought maybe we could have a little bit of a slump with him being lighter, especially this weekend too. The guys got an extra pound because the team wrestled before. So wrestling some of those bigger guys, but he went out there and took care of business. He's looking great. I'm really excited for him in a couple weeks to get down to 157. I think he's going to take another step down there at that weight class. So overall though, great weekend. And we got, 10 or so red shirts that got to go up there and wrestle all weekend and get matches. Colton Drusius, who's unattached for us, transferred from WVU, red shirt in this year, made the finals, came up short in a close match, but really excited to just see those guys get out there and compete away from the Waco Center for the first time. So that was cool.
And I know we spoke briefly when you were heading out here, like it was like 5:30 on Monday morning after the match last week, and after the home tournament. And you were talking about, keeping the foot on the pedal and keeping the grind. And you were talking about November and working and what you're working on. I know, with a program as big as yours, and you got so many kids that go to nationals, how last year you were talking about, recovery, prep, tapering at the end. Here, there's none of that. You're just pounding them right through. Tell me about, the way they responded coming off a big tournament, going into another tournament, how they're responding to that, the early season grind.
Well, I think for a lot of the guys, right, it's, wash, rinse, repeat, right? They've done it before and are ready to do it. But I think our freshmen and new guys have done really well with that. We came off the invite pretty healthy, right, which is always a good thing when you're wrestling these, early season tournaments where you can wrestle 4 or 5 matches. Like if you can wrestle 4 or 5 matches and then be able to get back in after your off day and wrestle right away, that's great. So I thought it was we had a really good week, right, of practice. Our guys are doing the job they need to do. They're putting the work in. I can always nitpick and say I want more here or there, but overall, right, they're working. And, a lot of them, they understand it. They understand that this first couple months is, we're going to be training through wrestling. They might not be feeling their best every single time we step out on the mat. And that they're not supposed to, right? They're not supposed to. We're trying to just, grind through these months, get into that postseason, right? And then I'll take care of them and I'll make sure that they feel the best that they need to when they need to feel that way.
Well, I'll tell you, this is getting out in the weeds a little bit with, the team dynamic. You got a lot of really good wrestlers you've added to a team that was already, ninth in the country. Pretty strong with a lot of key returnees. But I see the way they interact down the hall, come to study hall, the way they worked here together, putting on the home event, the whole chemistry aspect and how that's been able to unfold, because it looks like a real positive vibe with the bunch.
Yeah, it's a good group. I think Glenville helps with that, with, being a smaller university, that the guys are able to, do stuff together. I know at coaching at Division I's and wrestling there and being around it, it's tough, when you're in a huge city to get 40 guys going in the right direction, right? Teams get really cliquey. So, it's a huge recruiting point for us as well when we bring guys in, that, the team dynamic is a lot different. And you have, 30 guys that really want to see you be a national champ, right? I don't think we have any guys with malice in their heart about someone, like a Kyocho or someone else doing what he's doing. I genuinely think that everybody on our team really wants him to win a national title and wants us to win a national title as a team. So that's awesome to see. And, that's the kind of guys that we're trying to bring into our program consistently. When we're out recruiting, is not just talented guys, but good people as well. I think that goes a long ways when you get those guys together on just that positive, like you said, kind of the positive vibe in the room. Wrestling is way too hard of a sport to make it not fun. So we try to, we're obviously pushing, and it's hard, right? But we're trying to make it as much fun as we can, and a lot of that goes just in the relationships that we have on the team. Yeah.
And you mentioned the 3 winners this weekend, but Gavin and Kyocho and Guy. Of course, Gavin, a national champ, but guys made runs at the NCAA level. But for Gavin Shamlin to be doing what he's doing now, and what you mentioned earlier about, being behind Jared last year, but coming through, and then to have another big week like this week from him.
Yeah, it's a huge addition. And, we've talked with Gavin and we've told him that, this is possible for a long time. He's such a big, strong, athletic kid at that weight class. We just have to sure things up, and we're still not there. And he'll be the first one to tell you that right behind me is, the technique we're working all the time to just continuously get better. His, consistency is what we're looking for with him. The individuals over the next 2 months are going to be massive for him, right? To make jumps and continue, right? Like you don't got to do much with a kid with a body like that, right? Like tell him whatever you're doing, keep doing it, right? And then let's go get better in the wrestling room. He's a brick at 265 pounds. Like, we don't need to change anything in his workout plan, right? He just needs to get better on wrestling and the small details, and that will go a long ways. But another kid, right, an amazing person, one of the nicest kids I ever met in my life, right, who deserves to get everything that he's working for. So again, those are the type of kids we want in our program. Yeah.
So what's your objectives this weekend?
Well, this weekend we're doing we'll kind of be all over the place, right? So Friday or Saturday, we're sending some of our red shirts up to Findlay, right, to wrestle in the open up there, and we'll actually send 2 or 3 of our starters just to get some more matches. Like a guy like Gavin Shamlin, right? He needs more mat time. Ethan Hardy, who's going up a weight class, he needs more mat time at 49. Nick Copley, we'll probably send him up, right? So as long as we send less than 6 guys attached, it doesn't count as a weigh-in for us. So we'll probably send 3 or 4 of our attached guys, right? The guys that I think need a little bit more time at the weight class, more matches, just to continue to get better and to see more faces, right? We want them on the mat as much as we can, just to kind of see those scenarios, so that way at the end of the year, right, there's no surprise in a position or whenever at the biggest time of the year. And then Sunday, to be honest, we're going to see, right, because we have 5 guys on a weight descent program right now, and this will be the lowest that they wrestle before we get to them actually at their weight class, right? So this is kind of the most vulnerable week for them. I never like to say this as a coach, right? But in this situation, we're probably going to pick and choose where we wrestle some of our guys, right? Really depending on who we have back from injury is who's going to wrestle against Pitt Johnstown and Seton Hill and Garrett. So, some of those guys like Guy, right? He might not wrestle against Pitt Johnstown, and that will hurt us in the duel, right? But
Big picture, yeah.
Again, it is big picture, right? I got to protect my guys on getting them the best regional seeds and the best NCAA seeds going forward, right? Because a lot of people in wrestling, it's not like, I've talked about this before in here, right? It's not like basketball where you look at the record and they're 28-3, right? And it's like, that's a great season. Or if they're 10-20, that's a bad season. With us, the record on the, if you look on the website, right? If we're 0-5, right, that's duels. Or if we're 10-0, duels have nothing to do with wrestling.
It's individual matchups.
Yeah, I wish it did, right? I really do, because then it would put incentive on these duels. But for us as coaches, there's no incentive for us to go win duels other than to just do it. And I mean, obviously, as a competitor and for everyone else, I want to win those. But if it comes at the detriment of us as a team for nationals, right, I'm okay with losing a duel and putting a loss beside my win record, the team's win, whatever it is, right? The wins and losses really don't matter to me in the duels because it just has no bearing, right? I'm looking out for my guys each individually and making sure that at the end of the year, I put them in the best possible position to go be a national champ All-American.
Yeah, yep. And when the dust settles over those 2 months of getting them that mat time, that's the beauty of your sport. It's like track too, is that, they kind of write the lineup for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't got to do much, right? Just get them prepared and get out of the way, right? And let them go do it. And so it's pretty cool. I like that aspect of things that in wrestling is kind of a sport anyways, that you get in what you put out. So, even more so, we talk about that. But, it's exactly like track, right? You just kind of let them go and then, hey, let the chips fall where they may.
Yep. Well, Coach, congratulations on another exciting weekend, and we'll be talking a lot in the coming months, and good luck this weekend going up there. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Can't wait for the next one.
Thank you.